Chevra, heilige Chevra, change and transitioning. Somebody last week sent me a message and he said to me, Rabbi Gerzi, you are a broken record. That's what he said to me. You are a broken record. But he says, I want to tell you something. That being a, pardon?
Did you mean that nicely?
With what he said, the context, so he said, you are a broken record. What's pshat? So I know every single time you are going to turn on, pretty much most times, you do change it up slightly, but we start with the avodah of change and transitioning. And I'm traveling with my wife, and I start the recording, and I hear change and transitioning, and I'm ready to stick my finger on to fast forward it. And my wife looks at me, and she's been listening to the Shiurim every single week with me when they go up, and she says, you're a fool. You're a fool. And she says, why am I a fool? She says, because the Nakuda is, what Rabbi Gerzi is attempting to do is that if he is a broken record and he goes over it time and time and time again, hopefully it will improve your life. Not decrease your life quality, improve your life quality. For me, I've already started to hear inside my head, because she listens to the shir twice. She listens to it while they're driving into work, and then she listens another point during the week, usually Erev Shabbos when she is cooking. And she says, listen, haven't you noticed that I've changed? Haven't you noticed that when I come home with the way I am with the children? And he says, yes, I have. There's been a definitive change. Why do you think that is? Because I've got Rabbi Gerzi, the broken record, in my head. And I hear change and transition. And change and transition, das tachtoin chitzoni. Das tachtoin chitzoni, das tachtoin pnimi. And you have a hirhur that tells you to push the button. You have a hirhur that tells you you've got a hirhur. You've got a regesh that's telling you to push the button. So I see, she says to him, you're not yet owning this experience. And he wrote this to me, and he says, I have to do teshuvah. It's 100% correct, even though it drives me mad. Even though it really, he says, it annoys me. I have to listen to you say change and transition. It's like, get on with it already. But I realize, until that moment, I wasn't aware. I'm relating to a hirhur in the present moment. That gift that my wife gave me allowed me to realize, Rabbeinu Shalom, look at this. I'm listening to a thought. I'm relating to a thought. I'm relating to a feeling. So every single time I've been listening to your shir, until that experience, I hear the beginning of it and I want to fast forward. So he said, I'm still frustrated. It's still, the voices still come up, but now I'm aware of it, and at least I plan to, as we go forward, I plan to make a big shift where I can become aware of the thoughts and feelings that I'm experiencing in change and transitioning. So Chevra, listen, again, my inner wanting is to help us to become more wholesome, complete individuals. Individuals that become, so to speak, a more chosheva balabayis, a more chosheva individual living an ordinary life. And this is something for me which I'm addicted to, and there's different ways of getting there. We have a system, and the human nature functions around this reality where we so easily can fall into a trap where I'm not aware that I'm aware of certain thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations leading me. From that perspective, I may miss out on uplifting my world. I may miss out on expanding and elevating my ability to live well. And for this Yid, he really sent me this message. And we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. The last couple of shiurim went out. This was from last week. I don't know what's going to happen in his life. However, what I can assess, like for his wife, the very simple fact that I'm aware of my Nefesh experience, and that I can choose to ignore or explore. I can choose to recognize, look at that. This thought is making me skip this introduction because of my expectations and assumptions. I'm going to choose not to. I'm going to choose not to. And this is something so important. My dear, dear friends, it's your life. I'm here to share. I went through this annoyance. I had my teachers who sounded like broken records. And what I realized deeply, deeply is that broken recordness made a shift in my whole circuitry. So when I heard my teachers speak and they would say the same message time and time again, I'm like, oh, again, I can say this, what's the word, verbatim? What's the word I'm looking for? I could say this by heart, Baal Peh. And yet, in my lived experience, it's not there yet. So, I'm not living better. And what we want to understand, dear friends, is that we deserve to live very well. We mamash deserve to live very, very well. And Be'ezras Hashem, we should mamash go from strength to strength and own our experience to the best of our ability to say what we mean, live what we say, and really live strong, wholesomely. And again, right now we're in a kuntrus. And this kuntrus belongs to a set of a chabura, and this chabura, Bacharta B'chaim, lives within a set of principles, the 6 shifts, and there's hagdamas to the 6 shifts. Again, the 6 shifts, the belief system, our thoughts are always leading us, and to have an understanding of what beliefs to think about, to help change us in a good way. And the 2nd shift, recognizing that every single generation has an ebb and flow. Every single generation has its own chiddush. Every single generation has its own tikkunim. And what those tikkunim are. 1st shift and 2nd shift, we call it the beliefs, we call it the tikkunim for the generation. The 3rd shift, now how do we embody this? So the nakuda of divine plan, the derech Hashem, which we've passed through a little bit in words. Olam shana nefesh, all in makom. I'm relating to time and space. And the quality of self will determine my quality of how I relate to time and space. All in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, divine plan. 3rd shift. 4th shift, architecture of the soul. So this is where we are playing right now. This is where we are dancing right now. In and out of ideas to do with self. And specifically in the world that we call das, tachdoin, chitzoni and pnimi. Specifically, there's das, which is related to ishtavus, it's all the same to me, having the ability to let go and to surrender, and das elyon. Again, a whole science. The 5th shift is life foundations. How do you balance up when we're speaking about the subjective and the objective? The subjective of the beliefs, 1st shift, and the subjective of architecture of the soul, the 4th shift. In context to the objective, tikkunim for the generation is outside of us, opening us up to looking at what needs to be corrected in this generation. And the divine plan, more objective. So how do you balance out the objective with the subjective? How do I allow my experience to come out, my voice to be heard in context to the structure that I live with, to the structure that I live within? So we have the Arba Yesodis, life foundations, physical and financial health, understanding the principles of relationship, recognizing knowledge, creativity, and wisdom. And the 4th shift is guidance and spirituality, each of them with their own fundamental principles. And then we have the 6th shift, which is fluid integration. And really, fluid integration we're sharing all through the other shifts, but fluid integration concentrates on all of the tools, all of the techniques that you have, whether breathing, whether journaling, whether hisbaidadus or hisbainanus, whether sichas chaverim, whether affirmations. And why are we doing this? It's because something very important. I try not to reinvent the wheel. I learned from my teachers. They shared real, healthy information. And over the last 20-something years, sitting with people, I've seen what's missing. At least in my own Dalad Amais. I see what's missing, at least in my own Dalad Amais. And everyone has a mission. Everyone has a yud. Everyone has a job to do. And right now in my life, I believe that part of my job, under the guidance of my teachers, which is the side of guidance and spirituality, and understanding that there's tikkunim to do in this world. So I believe right now, my incarnation right now, and we've used these words, my curriculum is my incarnation. So right now in my life, this is what I'm doing. I'm sharing. I study. I could always work harder. I can always study harder. I try to sit with people. But as well, I very much want to share with people a set of fundamental principles that you can think about yourself. Again, this element I've said before is so fundamental. You own your own experience. I don't own your experience. You own your experience. I don't own your experience. And we need chesed, gevura, tiferes. We need netzach, hod, yesod, all the different midos. And it's for you to upgrade your life. And there's easier ways of doing it, there's harder ways of doing it, there's quicker ways of doing it, there's slower ways of doing it. And it's an avodah, all nested in relationship. We're not here to be by ourselves, we're not here to live by ourselves. It's not good Adam is alone. And the hope is, Be'ezras Hashem, change and transition will have that ability to be present and to ask the question, is my next step, is my next action, is my next thought, is it bringing a greater revelation of divine light or not? Simply, I'm standing here right now. Is my next action, is my next feeling, thought, my next sentences, are they going to bring a greater revelation? The hope is yes. I'm trying. I'm trying to sculpture myself, to build myself. I'm trying. And all of us need to try together to care, share, support, and encourage each other, the Abrahamic vision. And Be'ezras Hashem, to live a swell, wondrous and wonderful life. The Borei Olam made a beautiful world and wants us to live, wants you to live, a beautiful life in His beautiful world. And we can, if we're guided how to. So just as my teachers gave me guidance, I'm just trying to share, and whoever is listening, and however it is being received. Again, you're always relating, which we'll go back into as a chazara, your paradigms. You are relating to life through your nefesh. You are relating to life through your hirhurim, regesh, and rikshe gufani. The quality of your nefesh will determine the quality, how you look at something, how you observe something, how you see something, how you feel something, how you hear something. So Tikkun Hamidos is recognizing that I have the ability to clean my lens. I have the ability to focus my lens. I've got that ability. You have that ability. And through hopefully these conversations, it becomes more apparent. And through the conversations and hearing them time and time again from different angles, we're saying the same set of teachings from different angles, especially in these three introductory kuntresim. The goal is there, as I said, to upgrade our lives. And in the funnel we have the 6 shifts. We have the first set of chaburas, which is called Mevasa Tov. And we right now are playing in the beginning part of B'charta B'chaim, in the architecture of the soul part of B'charta B'chaim, introducing what are fundamental ideas to help us reintegrate to being Etzelem Elokim. And Be'ezras Hashem, it'll be good for us, good for the world around us, the other people that we mix with in this world, and good for the Borei Olam. Be'ezras Hashem. So, wherever we were a few minutes ago, change and transitioning, wherever we were a few minutes ago, we've changed from one space into another space. And our inner world needs to catch up, transitioning, kapshutai. So just look around for a moment. What space have I entered now? Just look around at the colors, at the people, at the textures. Look around how things are perfectly placed in the present moment. Look around at the objects that are within this space. And just really notice that you're here. And now let's listen. Listen to the loudest sounds. And listen to the loudest sounds, and you could bounce around. One loud sound, another sound, another sound. Bounce around. Place your attention on different sounds that you can hear. And sometimes, like a door closing, your focus will go there, and that's okay. What happens is, it's gone there now, I could put it back on something else. That's your choice. And smell. Take a breath and smell. Okay. And just notice where your body is right now. How are your feet positioned? Can you feel the ground under your feet? Or can you feel whatever your feet are resting on, if they are? How are your hands positioned right now? Okay. And maybe just take a shift. How am I feeling inside my body? The temperature. You could do a body scan from your legs all the way up to your head. Noticing what's going on within your digestive system. And you can ask, what am I feeling right now? Just to take note. You are the observer. What am I feeling right now? And what's going on in my mind? Is there any imagery? Is there any sound? Hirhurim? Are there any hirhurim that are going on right now? What am I thinking in the present moment? Hachna Havdalah. Hachna and Havdalah, and the natural consequence of Hachna Havdalah is there's an element of Hamtaka. Could be you feel a little bit more Menuchas HaNefesh now. Again, the terms we use, Menuchas HaNefesh, rest in your Nefesh. Could be that your Hirhurim, Regesh, and Rigshe Gufani are a bit calmer, quieter, Efsha, maybe. Maybe through Menuchas HaNefesh you have a little bit more what's called Yishuv Hadas, awareness, you're a little bit more aware. Das Tachtoin Chitzonim Pnimi at times can produce that if you are gifted. Remember, everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're in Makom, Olam Shana and Makom. As Pirkei Avos says, we have to do the work. The outcome is up to the Creator. The outcome is up to the divine intelligence. You could see Reb Tzadok HaKohen, Resisei Laila Kaf Aleph, I believe. So this Nakuda, Divrei Sofrim Kaf Aleph, Divrei Sofrim Kaf Aleph. Thank you, Nefesh. See, that was my Nefesh. So this Nakuda of change and transitioning, this Nakuda of hearing it time and time again. This is how we change. And we live in a generation today where we are under our attack. Our attention is under our attack. Our critical thinking is under attack. Our ability to focus in on something is mamash under attack. I was speaking to an individual who learns in a particular yeshiva, and he called me up last night and he just wanted to say to me how he wasted 3.5 hours watching YouTube shorts. And it's an amazing reality. We have part of our avodah is that we write a eulogy. We write a eulogy. It's a practice that I was makabel from two of the tzaddikim. You write your own eulogy and you look at it throughout the years. How, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to eulogize you, if a person's husband or wife is going to eulogize you, if a person's child is going to eulogize. And it's quite an intense avodah to write your own eulogy and to do it from different perspectives, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from a friend, from a wife, from a child. It's very much worth doing. But when you write this eulogy, it's very powerful. It shows you how you ultimately want to be remembered. And from there, we shift into creating your mission statement, because if you write your eulogy, you then can go through it from these different perspectives, and then you can see what's important to me. What are the themes that come up in HaKadosh Baruch Hu eulogizing you, in a husband or wife, in a friend, in a sibling? How do they eulogize you? And you could see the themes. And then you could take those themes and you could start to write up a mission statement. And typically what I would suggest, my friends, is most people don't want to be remembered that they watched YouTube shorts. Most people even don't want to be remembered about necessarily how much money they made or the businesses that they created. This is something, again, I've done this lots and lots of times with people. And really what starts to happen is a person wants to be known for a lot of things that would come out of your mouth that you want to be known for. And just imagine a world where everybody lived what they wanted to be known for. You can ask yourself right now, how do you want to be eulogized? And the entanglement that's being created because we don't know how we work, neshama, ruach, and nefesh. The entanglement that's being created because we don't necessarily know how this world functions enough. We don't necessarily know our timeline enough. So it creates an entanglement. It creates being owned, being a consumer. And as an individual, the glorious opportunity to be part of Am Yisrael, us as an individual, families, communities, as a nation, we're here to take radical responsibility to own our experience, ushering forth goodness in the world. But where does it start from? From you. It starts from your level of maturity. It starts from your level of clarity. And this is where we are up to. This is where we are up to in our Avodah right now. So I just want to remind us of what we spoke about last week and then go weiter. Yes?
Sounds like these practices, like eulogizing oneself, for example, would cause a person, or I imagine that the goal is to cause a person to therefore change their actions and act differently.
Or what did you say? The goal.
The goal
Yes, the goal. There's a goal and a process. Yes. The goal would be.
The goal is so a person should act.
So you should know. Yeah. You get to know, but there's a process to get to that goal. You have to set yourself up properly, that you're in a good emotional state to do it.
Yeah.
You have to be in a baldas. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How does that work with what's going on inside? So a person, let's say, has midos that go against his vision of.
That's tikkun hamidos. That's the create.
Tikkun hamidos, or is it pushing it under the rug and acting?
No, we're not pushing under the rug. At times, yes, but typically, no. Typically, we face our demons and we work with them and we quieten them. Yesterday, we were speaking about. We did an avodah in another session, and we did an avodah where people brought up something that has been nagging at them, and we just heard it out. We heard it out, and we said, "I hear it. I'm with you." And Hachnan Havdalah, just by listening and observing, a lot of people felt a quietening of it, a quietening of that voice. Now then, there are other techniques and teachings and elements that we want to implement to make that voice even quieter and to integrate that voice. So there's a healing process. Now, yes, at times we push something under the rug, 100%. However, majority of the times, Hachna, Havdalah, Hamtaka is a process of pulling back, observing, relating to in a healthy way. Then you could start to make those changes. So there's a process to get to the eulogy. There's a process to get to the eulogy and then write down what actually you do want. What are my values? What are my beliefs? What are my wantings from a bigger, healthier, from higher self? And then you can create the tikkun hamidos to start making that bridge. To start bridging.
Is the tikkun hamidos habit, or is tikkun hamidos an internal?
Both. I want to create external habits, so we could work from up down or down up. So we can say the following, that your thinking will change you and your action will change you. The way you act will change you. If you do something enough, if you have a habit and you implement that habit enough, it will change you from the outside in.
Whatever the midas doesn't stay dormant? For example, what I've been going through recently, that's been pushed under
So this is the challenge. The challenge is that there's going to be a space where within you will have a struggle and a war, and eventually, hopefully, through micro habits, whether it's a micro habit of, okay, I've just completed something, change and transition, open loop, I started something, I finished it, now take a breath, celebrate what I've done, what's my next action? Is my next action going to portray my better self, or is my next action going to betray? So it could be I need to make a shift. Okay, now there's a part of me that really doesn't want to do this, but I need to do this. So I'm going to work with that part. Breathe in, I'm choosing to turn up, I'm choosing to do this. And you may have to have a mantra that can create a situation where you've given space and heard that voice, but you have to choose. This is you, not me. I can't choose for you. This is where kavanah and bechira tap in. And when we typically don't choose, we feel resentful. That's how we know, that's a marker. And eventually, when we tell that part that this is good for all of us and you work with that part, sometimes you work with it softly and sometimes you have to be more harsh on that part. But you acknowledge it. You don't put, the more you put it under the rug, the more it will come back and you'll wake up within you the ego in a very, very big way. So one has to be smart.
So it's habit together with tikkun.
Well, tikkun amidos is part of habits, yes. It's part of habits.
It sounds like it's the inner part of habits, because a habit can literally just be changing one's actions.
Correct.
But it'll still, whatever the mida is.
Correct, exactly.
The challenging mida will still be dormant.
Exactly.
It has to be,
Yeah.
an internal change.
Yeah, as well. So yeah. we have to reverse engineer. We are not the few big choices we make in our life. We are the daily habits, rituals, and practice day in, day out. So if I want to be a certain person, I could reverse engineer and I could work with creating micro habits, rituals, and practices. So for example, I have a ritual in the morning. I've got my habits, rituals, and practices in the morning. I get up, I say my moida'ani, I wash my hands, I wash my hands and say moida'ani, other way around, then I make my brachas, I get ready, morning brachas, and then I take a big drink of water. That drink of water is working within the Arbi Sodas part of life, and that drink of water starts a hydration process, and I put my salts inside of it with my 91 different minerals, and I start my process. Then afterwards, I do my mobilization, I do some journaling, and I do some breathing, some reflective practices. Then I'll typically go do hisbaidadus. So that will be, in my journaling, what are some of my goals for today? So these are micro habits. Those micro habits I found affected me in an amazing way. How do I want to turn up today to this, that, or the other? So it's affected me in wonderful ways. So we can reverse engineer to greatness. And it does take effort and it does take time. In the word hatzlacha is the word lachatz. The word hatzlacha is the word lachatz. There needs to be a grind. It does take effort. By the way, this is, did you put on the audio?
Is it on?
I hope so.
It's on.
It's on?
It's recorded.
Yeah? So
Blue.
this nakuda of hatzlacha and lachatz, this is avodas Hashem. And again, this is the area in avodas Hashem which we lack. Every single person should be doing this on whatever level. Every single person should understand the 6 shifts. Every single person should understand how they work, obviously. Every single person should work on creating a eulogy, and from their eulogy, their mission statement, and from their mission statement, creating a situation where they can then take a reality check of where they are in conjunction with where they want to be. This is part of another chabura called Sefer HaChaim, where we journal 6 questions. What do I want my beliefs to be about this particular inyan? Why do I want it to be that? What's the steps in order to get there? And we go on and we go forth. How can I deal with something getting in the way? And going through to the last question, how do I celebrate my accomplishments? So we have these 6 questions that we ask on really all of the 6 shifts. And really, again, specifically, when we can have that clarity, it takes work. Hatzlacha, lachatz. It does take some work. But when we do it, we live with a clarity, and with friends around us, the goal is that we can support long-term change. Long-term change. Yes. So what did we say last week, which is very connected to where we are heading into? So we spoke about a paper that was written a long time ago, 2019, Reality, Truth, and the Foundation of Paradigm. So what we can share is as following, that when we're looking at the human being, there's truths that we are always relating to. There's truths that are always relating to, and we can call this an axiomatic truth. So for example, we went through certain axiomatic truths and patterns that exist, and then you've got you in the mix. And you are always relating to your nefesh in the present moment. You're always relating to your paradigms, your thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations, the lens in how you look at the world. And the question is, does your paradigm match up to what we would call the truths of reality? Or has there been an entanglement? Are you over-identifying with a self-developed truth that doesn't fit into the truth of reality? Have you created a situation in your life where through that over-identification, which is gaiva, if you hear something which actually is MS, can you change? So over-identification is that I can't pull back from my experience. Another, being humble, is I can pull back from the paradigm I was entangled with, and I can now look at the world differently. Look at the world differently. This is das and nefesh. Das and nefesh. Das is that I'm aware that I'm relating to reality through my nefesh, through my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. And sometimes I will buy in to a paradigm, my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations that don't match up with reality. So a couple of axiomatic truths, which are repetitive patterns that live within our reality. We've got, for example, gravity. We spoke about gravity. We spoke about entropy. We spoke about the world of cause and effect. Again, just to read out the law of cause and effect. Every action generates a consequence. Some consequences appear limited, others unfold gradually through immediate, some consequences appear immediate, others unfold gradually through accumulation. Tiny actions repeated constantly eventually reshape identity, biology, relationship, and destiny. And I say biology. Why do I say biology? Because you can change your biology. You can change your DNA through working on yourself.
Actual DNA?
Yeah. You can change the coil around your DNA.
And also it gets passed on to the next generation.
And it gets passed to the next generation. What's very fascinating is that there's 3 generations in certain situations we are not allowed to marry into. Your DNA in that changed way can get passed down to 3 generations, which is wild. Which is wild. So if a person, when I speak to...
3 generations of the Tomei.
Yes. So when you work on yourself, you're not just working on yourself, you are working on your future generations as well. So for example, when somebody, when there was a couple I was dealing with, and he went off a little bit, he was struggling and he was doing things that were not so healthy. And he came and they were talking about trying to have a child actually. And I said, you should change your habits because you're smoking. And he says, well, my smoking is just me, it's not going to affect me. So we know scientifically, actually it affects 3 generations. I showed him this and it gave him a pachad noira. Your midas go through you into the next generations. So for example, you've got certain Hasidic families, Kamana, they're very, very makpid, only to marry into cousins. Why? Because they lived on such a high spiritual darga that kids were born with mamash like Ruach HaKodesh. We've spoken about it before. That could be inherited. So, cause and effect. Paradigm adjustment. The wise person recognizes actions matter. Habits compound. Nothing exists isolated. This transforms the perception of ordinary moments. A single action may appear insignificant, yet repeated patterns create entire lives. Existential insight, destiny often arise disguised in daily habits. So again, because we were just speaking about that, just to point that out, we spoke about adaptation, the law of adaptation. We spoke about interdependence.
Is there hope for kids that were already born?
Yes, 100%. That's the beauty, is that you, through making a choice, can change all of reality.
So it's not just future children. It's
Now as well, yes, 100%. They model children. The best form of
Therefore,
education is
change their own
modeling,
DNA.
100%. Rhythm and cycle. We spoke about attention. Attention, the law of psychological amplification, that attention magnifies experience. We've said this before, whatever is louder grabs your attention. So, like before, someone came in, the door shut, bang, that grabbed our attention. And whatever you feed becomes stronger. So what you want is to feed the best darn behaviors you can. What you want is to make the loudest, the best behaviors. We call this Hislavus. This is the Avodah of Hislavus. So I'll read this out. I think it's worth reading out just because we want to, again, start off with Das Tachtoin Chitzoni and Pnimi and make that loud in our life. So attention magnifies experience. Whatever you feed becomes stronger. Whatever is louder will grab your attention. Whatever consciousness repeatedly focuses upon gains psychological weight and emotional reality. Fear intensifies through fixation. Gratitude deepens through attention and awareness. Resentment expands through rehearsal. Joy can be practiced. You can make joy loud. You could feed joy. Paradigm adjustment. A wise person recognizes attention acts creativity. Attention acts creatively. Attention acts creatively. Consciousness shapes perception. Inner focus alters life experience. Thus, mental discipline becomes profoundly important. Das. Existential insight. What occupies consciousness gradually shapes identity itself. So again, you have a law and you have a paradigm. When are we going to catch up? When are we going to catch up? This, by the way, I think I mentioned this last week. V'haya im shema tishma'u el mitzvaysai. It's there. We listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's voice. Our paradigm, Tikkun Hamidos, fits in to the reality of Torah and Hashem. Everything in this world, Olam HaZeh, will function healthily. Meaning, the law of existential orientation. Human beings require meaning. And guess what, Chevra? You and I, we are meaning makers. We create our meaning. We create our meaning. We can do that. Takes effort. Hatzlacha, lachatz, it takes effort. Without meaning, pleasure eventually empties. Success loses depth. Suffering becomes intolerable. Meaning organizes psychological endurance. Paradigm adjustments. The wise person recognizes existence requires purpose. Transcendence matters. Survival alone cannot satisfy the human soul. Existential insight. The human being hungers not merely for comfort, but for significance. Again, everything here I can show you in the 6 shifts. Beliefs. Again, that's what we're dealing with. Beliefs, tikkunim for the generation, divine plan, architecture of the soul, Arbi Yisodus, life foundations, and having all of the techniques to help us grow into this. Yes?
Can you please clarify what you mean by suffering becomes intolerable? What is considered suffering?
Any form of suffering.
Not
Pain or
of
suffering?
myself.
Yes, or the world around us. Any form of suffering, if it's void of healthy meaning, we can't live with it. It's too much for us.
I see.
Even something as simple
Because-
as like noises, like
Even,
noises
yeah,
when
yeah,
they're walking,
yeah.
that are-
Right, because if there's no meaning to the suffering, then why am I going through it?
Yes.
It's disturbed.
But if there's meaning, and that's the shift in our mind. That's the shift in our mind. Identity, the law of internal alignment. People tend to act according to who they believe themselves to be. Identity shapes behavior more powerfully than temporary motivation. Paradigm adjustment, a wise person, self-concept, influence, action. Das should lead Nefesh. Beliefs create behavioral boundaries. Transformation begins internally. A person should internally identify, a person who identifies as, don't know what I've written here, a person who internally
identifies
as disciplined behaves differently from one who identifies as helpless. So again, that's to do with meaning. Just another text that I have. Yeah, she's lucky. She has it. The Shulmans have this.
If we'd like to create a WhatsApp group for the people in the Shiur, share it to the WhatsApp group.
Okay, let's see what we can do. Okay. I don't know if I want more WhatsApp group, but we'll existential insight. Human beings constantly move towards the identity they rehearse internally. And Tachlis is that we have virtues, alignment, and the architecture of the soul. So it's a natural progression that these truths are external, objective truths, but you have internal objective truths as well, das and nefesh. So we went from outside showing certain axiomatic truths, and then now we're moving inside. So for example, trustworthiness is an axiomatic truth. What is trustworthiness? So midos, you want to live with your higher beliefs. When you live with your higher beliefs, which most people subconsciously have higher, good, wonderful, wondrous, amazing beliefs. And if they're not actualizing it, they lose out. And these are things that we can be taught. These are things that we could be taught, and these are things that we could be led into. It does take effort, my friends. I'm not putting that aside. It's very easy for me to say words and break hearts, because people have tried and tried and tried again. So I'm not denouncing the effort it takes. I'm not denouncing the fact that it's at times hard, sometimes impossible. But we still have to speak about these truths. But speak about them from a place of health. Speak about them from a place of space, compassion. So trustworthiness is an axiomatic truth. What is trustworthiness? Trustworthiness refers to the alignment between the word and action, intention and behavior, promise and fulfillment, inner conviction and outer consistency. One can define this in this way. Trustworthiness involves sustained alignment between what the person says, intends, and actually does. Trust emerges when consistently repeated over time. If somebody repeatedly speaks truthfully, keeps commitments, follows through, remains internally coherent, their reality reveals reality reveals that this person possesses reliability. They become trustworthy. The law beneath trust. Trust does not emerge randomly. Trust forms through consistency, reliability, predictability, and integrity, and continuously between speech and action. I'm not going to read, I don't have to read more here, but basically then we go into the lack of that internal coherence. You can see what it produces. A person, they can't trust themselves. A person can't be trusted with others. And what happens, this is the reality check, which is very odd. It's very, very odd, but this is something which is very real. A person may have internal challenges, and they may turn up. They may turn up. You know that they will turn up because they could speak the truths of their struggle. So we have people, we've all met people like this, that they can turn up, and they do turn up, yet inside their head there's a storm. But they can share with you the storm. But if a person turns up and you've got the patience to hold them, this is very real, this is very powerful. And there's an ebb and flow. Again, in our community, we have, I think, 10, 12 midos that we want to stay away from, and 10 to 12 midos that we want to connect to. So we want to stay away from people who are inconsistent. We want to stay away from people who are liars, not truthful. We want to stay away from people who are not goal-orientated or authentic. Like, we've got a list of people who we want to stay away from, and we've got a list of people who we want to relate to, who we want to connect to. Pardon?
Are those people bad?
They're not bad people, but it doesn't help us in life. And as the Rambam says that the environment affects us. So we want to make sure that, number one, I'm affecting myself, inside out paradigm. I'm building myself. I'm trying to live with the values that help me grow. And yet, at the same time, I want to be around people who can be living a higher level of life. By Reb Tzvi Meyer Zilberberg, for example, he's got them, like, when you walk into his Beis HaMedrash, he has them written on the wall. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like Peledic. We should do it here. I wish maybe it's guts, maybe it's courage, I don't know, because it will break a lot of people.
But we're going to have the Erev poster, so.
We'll have the Erev poster and the Midos poster.
Still waiting for that one.
Yeah, yeah. So this Nakuda is real. So Das and Nefesh, obviously, now this comes to Das and Nefesh. Same paradigm. There's an axiomatic truth of Das and Nefesh, whatever you want to call it, whether in your psychological language, but there's an ego self, a higher self, whatever you want, conscious self, whatever you want to call it. But the reality is that we need to create a healthy relationship from fragmentation to connection between Das and the Nefesh. So that's inner knowledge, connection, alignment. And we want to be very careful. I will change. I will get up early. I will stop behaving this way. I will remain I will remain disciplined. So we have to know ourselves. And sometimes I've got somebody who comes to the Beis HaMedrash. She's got a lot of challenges with consistency. So in a conversation with him, we said, don't say you will be consistent at this point in your life. And we built a Seder around his inconsistency. And he's never been happier. Why did he have so many breaks in his learning? Because he constantly let himself down. So now he comes in the morning, he sits and he'll bring 2 or 3 Sfarim, and he will try to be consistent in one Sefer, but if he finds himself not, he will stop and say, I'm now going to learn something else, and that's okay. Rabbi Gerzi said it's okay. So wherever you are in your journey, wherever you are in your process, the more you know yourself, there's a malleability, there's a flexibility in regards to the laws of success. To understand the laws, to understand how you work and to create a relationship is something very important. By the way, this person's wife, she's very confident and independent, and we had a conversation about it, and she's actually okay. She says, yeah, okay, I know where he is. We have between us that if I need to get somewhere, I'll go somewhere and he'll figure it out. Communication is so important. Communication is so important. So fragmentation of the nefesh is what really hurts us. And we have to be very careful to hold and understand. So trustworthy as an existential stability. MS, obviously. MS, truth, responsibility, reliability, sustainability. And we go through these different paradigms. Now, the way this kuntrus, this little, what I'm reading out, ends, is that it's not so far-fetched that you can take now this set of truths and apply it to spirituality. So, spiritual dimension. From here, your larger experience becomes extraordinarily powerful. So gravity governs the physical world, entropy governs systems, adaptation governs biology, cause and effect governs action, truthfulness, honesty, vows, that's governing how we work. So you can take this to Tikkun Hamidais, to be spiritual, living for something bigger than yourself. And more than that, we then take this a step further into Torah and into the Creator. There's a certain logic to the world, and it's true you have to choose to believe and make real. We're not going to take away from that. You have to choose to believe and make real. But the reality, my friends, is that there is a system to how this world works. And the more we understand this system, and the more we are clear in our thinking and our language, in what we need to place our focus on, that's already half of the battle, my friends. And for so many people, they don't necessarily recognize there's a system. of simple truths. If a person does not look after their health, who says the body will always be healthy? If a person doesn't look after their mind, who says the mind will always be healthy? There are certain truths. To know those truths, to speak out those truths, to have conversations about these truths, especially held from a state of maturity, is already 90% of the work. Or I would say 80% of the work. 80% of the work. And we have our famous saying, 80-20 rule. 20% study, 80% action. Right now we're 80-20 as in just information, as I've said from the beginning. This is more information. And then 20% benachas ruach, but eventually there's a switch where we want to understand it's really 80% action, 20% study in most things in life. It's how we learn. It's how we grow. With you being mature and having the right people around you and understanding these principles becomes a glorious journey. With its ebbs and flows, with its rhythm, its ups and downs, but it becomes a glorious journey. So Chazdei Hashem, we're moving now into this kuntras, the second part of this kuntras that we're learning. And it's a deepening of these ideas. And again, the goal is that very simply, you will be able to hear these ideas from another angle, and hopefully we will grow together. So this is called Ezehu Ashir. On true wealth, joy, and inner wholeness, 2015. So I gave this over in the Beis HaMedrash here. We had a kollel that came Elul time. And this was part of our Avodah. The foundation of inner architecture of the human being, part 1. Introduction, the hidden question of wealth. Pirkei Avos, Perek Aleph, Mishnah 4, offers one of the most deceptively simple and profoundly transformational teachings in the entire tradition. Okay, today I wouldn't say entire tradition. There are other deceptively simple transformational teachings, but I put in entire tradition. I'm actually going to cross that out. In our tradition. My Nefesh talking to me. So what does it say? Ezehu Ashir. Hasameach b'chelkai. Who is wealthy? One who is joyous with their portion. So we have to ask now questions. Ezehu Ashir. What's the definition of Ashir? What's the definition of Sameach? What's the definition of Chelkai? And again, this opens up to a whole science of how to learn. And to recognize the words on the page, Pshat. What are the words actually saying? And what do the words mean? Because in Lashon HaKodesh is very rich with meaning. And as we know, one word could mean etymologically a number of different words. And this is to do with context as well. So, Ezehu Ashir, Sameach Bechelkai. Who is wealthy? One who is joyous with their portion. In brackets here, parts. So again, Ezehu Ashir, what does Ashir mean? Sameach, what does Sameach mean? Chelkai, what does Chelek mean? We're not going to answer all of those questions, but we will answer some of those questions. At first glance, this teaching appears almost modest. It seems to advocate contentment, perhaps even resignation. Resignation? What's that word say? Anybody?
Yeah,
Resignation. So again, at first glance, this teaching appears almost modest. It seems to advocate contentment, perhaps even resignation, as an ethic of accepting less, desiring less, settling into life as it appears. But beneath this gentle surface lies an entire architecture of the soul, a revolutionary psychology of the human flourishing, and a radical different understanding of joy, worth, and success. So again, we can look at this, and this is a very important This is a very important conversation to have. So when we read these words, it very much can ask us to settle for less, desiring less, settling into a life as it appears. So not asking for more, not going out there, not growing. Be happy with what you have. This could be a pshat of the Mishnah, 100%. This Mishnah does not speak about the material world. It speaks about the deeper structure of the human experience, where a person locates themselves, where a person locates their sense of self, their sense of safety, their sense of meaning, their sense of joy. So hopefully what we will unpack, that this Mishnah is speaking to what we've been sharing in regards to you as awareness, das, and then identity. You as das, identity, and then this other part of us, nefesh, and how a lot of the time there could be an entanglement between nefesh and das. And we want to be able to articulate a way to at least create a model in our mind to understand the distinction. To grasp the depth of this teaching, we must first understand the inner design of the human being itself. So now, this is where things become familiar to us again. The two pillars of inner life, das and nefesh. Human experience unfolds through three fundamental inner systems. Let us start speaking about two of them, das and nefesh. As you know, we've got neshama, ruach, and nefesh. Just to make sure that we understand that. We're speaking about das and nefesh. Das sits at the top of ruach. So these two forces operate continuously, even within a person. They shape how life feels, how the world appears, and how reality itself unfolds from the inside out. For the purpose of this teaching, we may translate them as following. Das, self-esteem. Das is your true identity. We're going to use the term self-esteem. And nefesh as confidence. Hopefully we will unpack that confidence, nefesh, is all the skills and talents that we have learned. Although they intertwine, these two systems perform entirely different roles in the soul. When they stand in their proper place, a person lives with stability, joy, and inner wealth. When they collapse into each other, when das falls into nefesh, a person can live with anxiety, hunger, a fragile dependence on circumstance. So I'm hoping that what we are going to be sharing here experientially is a truth. It's a truth. And again, who's going to judge this? You will judge it. I'm here sharing words, and it's for you to think about, to contemplate, to critically judge after we've gone through this in a healthy way. And the reason why I'm asking you to do this is because ultimately I believe this is truth, and I would like you to improve your lives. And I believe this is a way where we all can improve our lives. Let's read one more paragraph. Das, the foundation of self-esteem. Das, the foundation of being, self-esteem. Das reflects the deepest experience of self, not what we do, not what we achieve, not what we possess, but what we are. Das expresses inner knowledge. I exist. I am good within myself. I participate in divine consciousness. I carry a neshama. I stand whole. Nothing essential lacks within me. This state does not depend on any external validation. State of das shouldn't depend on any external validation. It does not fluctuate with success or failure. It does not rise or fall with approval, recognition or accomplishment. Dat forms true self-esteem. The quiet, stable sense of existence itself holds worth. A person anchored in dat experiences themselves as shalem. This is connected to Yaakov Avinu. Complete. Life feels inhabited rather than chased. The nervous system rests in sufficiency. The soul stands upright within its own being. From this place, joy becomes our natural state rather than manufactured. So what we're starting off by saying here is Das has experiential qualities. And we as well want to at least have the ability to speak about that, to give some sort of definition to it, and to recognize who we are in our essence, and to understand the role of the Nefesh. So
saying that Das is Nefesh.
Das.
The nervous system rests in sufficiency.
So okay, you're right. That is a little bit confusing. Thank you. The nervous system is to do with the body, and it's to do with, on a certain respect, the nefesh, menuchas nefesh. What I would do is say that when we're speaking about das, and we're living with a proper das, that's a to'eles, that's what happens, it's born from it. So let's speak about nefesh, and this is where we're going to end today, Be'ezras Hashem. Nefesh, the power of becoming confidence. Nefesh expresses self in motion, action, and achievement. Through Nefesh, a person experiences skills, talents, work, creativity, accomplishment, contribution, building, success, influence in the world. This system generates confidence, the strength and vitality that arises when we see ourselves capable of shaping reality. Confidence matters deeply. Without Nefesh, life stagnates. Without accomplishment, creation dries up. Without agency, the human spirit withers. But Nefesh never carries the task of providing worth. It never carries the task of supplying identity. It never carries the task of creating inner wholeness. That work belongs to Das. So what we are saying here, and we're going to unpack this over the next couple of weeks. Again, another iteration of coming to understand that I am awareness, I am Das, and there is what's called Nefesh, and Nefesh has its own experiential criteria. Das is something that we want to give more experiential, practical meaning to, and then we have Neshama. We have Neshama, Ruach, or Das, and Nefesh. And what we want to do is to create a conversation here about the identity of the two, and for you in your life to notice. That's it. Notice these words, and see what happens in your life by noticing. Oh, look at that. Identity, self-esteem, and confidence. And hopefully we will stack words that will give experiential meaning. And again, once again, tap into the true you, to live more fully, more integrated, and to recognize that you are the story. You have your own story. You are the story, and you are the mechanic over your own machinery. And you can really design and create a beautiful life. Say the Chevra, what we will do, we'll break up into our groups and we will share. Chevra online, take a minute. What did you hear today? Change and transitioning. We're changing now. We're ending this session. Whoever's listening, we're ending this session, and we're going to be transitioning into something else. It's a change and transition. Before you change and transition, recognize you're changing and transition. Become present, take a moment, I'm finishing this up. What did I hear today that can help me? You can ask that question, and it can help you in your life. What did I hear today that can help me, that can allow me to live more fuller, integrated, allow me to even live more joyfully? Beseda. May you experience bracha, mazel, and hatzlacha.